DJI drones are more likely than not going to get banned in the United States, but there are some things that you need to know that no one's telling you. This is in regard to a retroactive ban that occurred October 28, 2025, just a few days ago, and it's critical because it could affect recreational flyers, remote pilots, commercial operations, and there are some other concerns that we have not yet discussed that we need to point out. In this video, I'm going to give you a timeline to recap the previous events, the current situation, and the potential outcome. This situation is beginning to unfold with information that you need to know. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in. Are you ready? Let's go. Almost 1 year ago, December 23rd, 2024, FY 2025, the National Defense Authorization Act NDAA was signed into law. The NDAA is an annual law and it happens every single year without exception. But for 2025, there was an exception, and it was the first time that the NDAA explicitly targeted DJI by name. And just in case you didn't know, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is enacted by Congress, authorizes the Department of Defense to pay for the active duty reserve members for the military and also fund military retirement benefits, healthcare, and family support programs. So, here's a question. Why was DJI named in this budget pay law? Well, let's break it down quickly. It's enacted by Congress, not the president. It authorizes the Department of Defense, who in turn is responsible for national security concerns. So they indicated DJI's name as a clause in the 2025 NDAA law. And the significance of this important clause, Section 1709, mandated that the U.S. National Security Agency conduct a formal review audit on certain drone manufacturers, including DJI. And the purpose of this audit was to determine whether these companies pose an unacceptable risk to national security. Now, there's an insightful implication here because you just heard me say these companies, and guess what? None of these companies were initiated with a security audit that has been conducted, and it could be blamed on anything. It could be a jurisdictional issue, it may be a lack of technical mandate, or how about a strategic tool labeled as a security risk, which may in turn allow for strategic positioning in key industries. Now, my mom always told me something very profound. She used to say, Mike, if you want to cook your own food, then just don't allow other people in your kitchen. So maybe it's not a bad idea to remove a drone company that has 90% market share worldwide and 70% market share within the United States. But here's the thing, there's something else that's profound, and I used to say this to my mom. Mom, if you only have one car to drive and there's only one car maker, then drive that car. Now, we do not know why, still today, 1 year later, that security audit has not been conducted. But what is certain is that if it is not conducted within the next 50 days, then that will mean that DJI will be added to the FCC's covered list. And in case you don't know what a covered list is, well, let me explain. A covered list is a federal registry of companies and equipment deemed to pose an unacceptable risk to U.S. national security. And one of the ways that you can guarantee that you're going to get put on this covered list is if you have a system that transmits user or operational data to servers outside of the United States. I'm covering this in great detail for you so you understand. One of the preemptive solutions that DJI could have used previously was simply to house the servers within the United States, but you know that would have never happened. Hey, listen, iPhones are made in China, but their data servers are based in the United States. So in context, the final determination who qualifies for this covered list is not just determined only by one thing, but a series of things. Where are the servers being hosted? Are there critical components such as processors or RF chips? Who actually owns, or should I say controls, DJI, and are they tied to any foreign government or foreign military entities? And here's an important one. Can software or firmware updates be remotely implemented or integrated without user consent? These are very important questions as to why this is happening. So now that you understand what this covered list is all about, let's stay on the timeline and move to mid-2025. This is the time where DJI is publicly urging the U.S. government, or should I say begging the U.S. government, to have the agencies begin the process of the mandated security audit. Again, none of us know, or we may never know, why the security audit was not done or why it was never conducted. But nevertheless, DJI at this point emphasizes that they are ready to cooperate and they are willing and ready to provide any and all information that is pertinent to this situation. But still, no agency has publicly confirmed the initiation or the completion of the security audit as of now. Now, during this mid-2025 timeline, we're primarily concerned about the new drones entering into the country as a potential ban. And there hasn't been any indication given by the government at this time in regard to the drones that are currently existing here in the United States. We were under the impression that all of the DJI drones that were already here in the United States, the drones that we currently own, were not going to be affected by this December 23rd, 2025 covered list ban until October 28th of 2025, a few days ago, when the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, voted unanimously 3-0 to grant itself the authority to retroactively ban gadgets and wireless transmitter equipment from companies placed on the covered list. Now, the question that you're asking here is, what does the word retroactively actually mean? And this word retroactively is probably, in my opinion, the single most important and controversial part of the October 28th FCC vote. You see, normally when the FCC bans or restricts equipment, it usually applies or implies to future authorizations, meaning that new products can't be sold or approved moving forward. Existing devices already approved, such as your DJI Mini 4 Pro or your Mavic 3, will usually remain legal to sell, legal to use, or legal to service. But here it comes, the word retroactively. This was the word that was used on October 28th, 2025, and what this word means is that the Federal Communication Commission, FCC, can now revoke, restrict, or nullify past or previous approvals. This one word changed the game completely, and now there's not one doubt in my mind that the DJI ban that is coming December 23rd of 2025, as we've been talking about for all of these months, that it is inevitable and it will happen. So let's now reword this correctly. Instead of us saying that from now on, no new drones will be approved, the FCC is now saying we can go back on the timeline and pull previously approved equipment, previously approved authorizations, if or when a company is later found to pose a national security risk. Do you understand what the word retroactive now means? Okay, so let's keep moving on the timeline. We're now at December 23rd, 2025, and let's just assume that no audit has been completed prior to this deadline. By law, DJI and Autel and others will be automatically placed on the FCC covered list. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the key to the FCC Pandora's box, because they now have new retroactive powers that enables them to pull previously approved DJI drones, DJI gear that may face import bans or restrictions or revocations. I'm breaking it down this way so you understand the gravity of what I'm referring to. If no security audit is conducted, strategy. DJI is placed on the covered list, strategy. DJI is permanently banned, strategy. DJI is considered as a national security risk, strategy. And the facts, events, and conditions activates and enables the FCC to have legal authority, or what's called jurisdiction, to set the rules which will act upon the situation at hand. This is a potentially highly destructive situation that may affect the long-term support for the existing DJI products that we currently have here in the United States. Now let's jump back on the timeline and talk about what's going on today, right now. And after that, I'm going to mention 5 crucial concerns that I've thought about that no one else has mentioned. And these concerns, I believe, will shape the future for recreational flyers, remote pilots, and commercial operations. The way we proceed perceive our experiences today will retroactively change in the future. So let's talk about today. We're still able to fly our drones, and although there are no guarantees, there's nothing set in stone. There's no indication as of yet that our previous devices will be restricted, and as of now, there is no immediate ban on DJI drones in the United States. But there are some things that we need to consider now before I get to the concerns. And really, this is for everyone flying drones today: hobbyists, recreational flyers, commercial pilots, Part 107 remote pilots, public safety operation. There are some things that we need to do today, and those things are as follows. Number 1, document and back up your firmware versions, your settings, your mission logs, and your flight data. I cannot express to you anymore how crucial and important this is. On a personal note, just today, it took me 3.5 hours to back up and update the firmware on all of my DJI drones. Number 2, develop an inventory and pre-stock essential parts such as batteries, props, sensors, modules. Anything that you anticipate that you may need in the future, it's better to get it now. Number 3, keep in mind that if you have any DJI warranties, coverage, or insurance plans on your drones, that those will be affected after December 23rd, 2023. They may no longer be valid. Number 4 is for us to develop a pre-contingency plan just in case we have to resort to other alternative platforms. Now, you and I already know that the United States does not offer technologically advanced drones at an affordable price, but we have to consider other alternatives just in case as a matter of survival. And number 5 is very important for us to continuously work as a community, keeping ourselves informed and tracking the updates in regard to the FCC and the DJI situations. Now, for those of you who are taking the FAA Part 107 exam, I already know that there are going to be a lot of questions and concerns in regard to whether or not this retroactive ban has any effect. So here's a quick rundown of the possible scenarios. And keep in mind that the retroactive ban currently doesn't affect anything on the Part 107 exam knowledge test. You see, we're talking about 2 separate government agencies. One is the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. The other is the FCC, Federal Communications Commission. So the FAA Part 107 exam actually has nothing to do with regulating communications and radio equipment authorization. But, and you knew that but word was coming, didn't you? Here's how the FCC's retroactive authority could trickle down to the FAA. If DJI is officially placed on the FCC covered list and prior equipment authorizations are revoked, then DJI drones could lose legal authorization to transmit radio signals on U.S. frequencies, which all drones must do to operate. The FAA would now have certain obligations which would not automatically ground the drones, but, and there's that but word again, since the FCC is the one that governs signal authorization, pilots could technically be operating non-compliant radio equipment, which is unlawful according to the Code of Federal Regulations under 47 CFR Part 15. These are the concerns that no one else is talking about, no one else knows about, and the federal government would never tell you about. It's my gift allowing me to break it down so that way you understand it. And there's another way that this could trickle down to the advantage or benefit of the federal government, and pay attention to the subtlety and the severity of what I'm about to say. If the FCC officially bans DJI drones retroactively, then continuing to use these drones on a commercial basis as an FAA certified remote pilot would mean that you would be violating 14 CFR 107.19. This is under the Code of Federal Regulations. And that code has a clause in it that states a remote pilot in command must operate safely and within all applicable laws. These are subtle and severe discrepancies that no one else seems to be talking about. If a certified remote pilot wants to stay within the laws, and the laws state retroactively that you can't fly a DJI drone, then that pilot, he or she, would have to shift over to an FCC-approved U.S. applied manufactured drone. Are you beginning to sense the subtle strategy? I'm providing you with a level of discernment so you can have an understanding about where this is going. And I hope that they don't send somebody over here to shut me up. FAA enforcement based on what the FCC does, Possible. FAA for equipment legality? Possible. FAA for commercial compliance of drones? Definitely yes, based on what the FCC controls. Now, there is one more thing that I want to mention that is a concern that I have, and I haven't been able to answer. Maybe you can help me with this. But the question here is, in regard to the DJI Fly app support, will that support continue, or will the DJI Fly app no longer work? And by saying that, what I'm referring to also is the binding or unbounding of drones, whether you want to buy them or sell them. Will that also be something that we have absolutely no control over? And these are very important questions. I'm not going to make any assumptions in this regard, but if you have some information that may help us to understand this in regard to what's coming, what's going to happen in the future or the near future, this may allow us to have a more accurate forecast towards the probability of what's coming and what may happen in the near future after December 23rd, 2025. So with that being said, the game is not over yet. Hold on to your seats. There will be much more information in regard to this situation. And until then, I will do my best to keep you updated on what's going on. I will see you all on the next video.